All right, we're back on our project loadstar. Got the engine here. This is the 6.7 liter Cummins I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. Got a pretty good deal on it. Has the Allison, I believe it's 200 transmission behind it, automatic. It's kind of a turn package deal here. We're going to get it going. I want to make sure it runs and stuff before I invest too much more time into it. Kind of walk you through what I did here. I'm still learning about diesels myself. Eventually, I want to learn the programming side, but right now, more of the mechanical side I'm learning, and into this cluster of wiring right here. So I'm going to flip this around here, show you what I got going on. All right, here's the cluster I got. So the ECM is down here on the front of this 6.7. This is the top plug, is for all the engine components itself, all the sensors kind of built in. This red harness here, it kind of goes everywhere. So you got multiple features in there. You got temperature probes, diagnostic stuff, whatever. I believe this is the main connector that communicates between the engine side of it and the OEM. The OEM is the bottom side down here. So there's very few little things that communicate top to bottom in this wiring harness. My understanding is the OEM plug here, these are going to vary from engine, or actually not engine, but chassis builder, whatnot. So I tried to do this as neat as possible, pulling the ohming out the wires through the top up here where it connected into the firewall of the truck. Obviously, I don't have the truck. I don't really know too much about the truck to come out of, but I did have a plug, and it had a lot of pins in it. So what I did was I started ohming out the wires, not really ohming, but continuity testing to the point where I was comfortable cutting off the plug. Obviously, this engine's not going back inside that truck again. So kind of gives me the freedom here to get rid of all the extra wires I don't need. So what I started doing here was I got a hold of the wiring schematic. One of the guys over at the local Cummins dealership gave me his actual training document, and it's a breakdown of the wiring harness, and it is very extensive. Actually goes into the plugs, different diagnostic plugs. This side over here is all OEM, so it's going to be more of the chassis stuff, but related to the engine. So it's your a lot of your emission stuff falls in this area up in here. Your battery area, whatnot, is down in here. So it's a little confusing to figure out, but honestly, with minimal work here, you're able to figure out what wires you need to at least make it run to verify. I'll show you guys on the computer. It's going to be easier to see, but you can see up here these plugs. Those plugs right there are actually these right here on the engine. So what you do is you look at the plug. This bottom one is what I did. So they start up here at 1 and they end down here. You know, they got 73. And actually on the corner of the plug, when you pull it off, they actually have a little number on each corner, so you know that you're looking at it right. And what I do is I take these, they're like very sharp needles, and you basically pull the plug off of the engine. So there's two bolts here, and just a little snap. You push the little button in right here, and you snap this off, pull it, and you just stick that little probe inside each pin, and you stick one in there, and then you stick one end on the other end of the wiring harness. And what I did was just got my label maker and just started identifying things. For example, ignition, OEM number 5. So I could look down on the sheet, look for OEM number 5 down on the sheet. So it's pretty basic. We're going to make sure we look for positives and negatives of the system. All the sensors in the system seem like they run off a 5 volt. That 5 volt is generated within the ECM, and the sensors actually read the voltage. I guess there's a nominal voltage that it's ideal. It's probably somewhere between 1 and 5 volts or something like that. And as long as it's falling in the middle, the sensor says it's okay. So if it's too high or too low, that could mean that there's a problem with the with either the sensor or the component of the motor that's causing the sensor to do it. So I'm going to walk over here to the computer, kind of show you the pins that I pulled out. I kind of just have it cobbled together right now. I pulled off the ones I need, just to connect it to a small battery right here. So let's go over there and take a look at that real quick. So over here on my shop computer, this is on the Cummins.com supports manuals side of their thing. This is all free. You basically type in your engine serial number here, hit search, and what it's going to do, it's going to pull up the 2 documents that are eligible for your truck or your engine. And one of them is going to be the actual service manual, as in like, or more the operation manual, and the other one's going to be this wiring diagram. And this wire diagram is exactly what I have in the paperwork there. So real quick, what I went down through, obviously I looked for the battery first. So I found the battery right here. And then I identified these grounds here and these positives. And you know, you can kind of follow these out to different things, but at minimal, I want to make sure I connect to all those pins right there, all the positives, all the negatives, okay? And then additionally, what I want to look for is down here at the battery, we have to let the ECU know that we're gonna be cranking on it, and we want it to activate all the other solenoids and whatnot. So you'll notice that this thing is slow. It's a mixture between the website and the computer itself, but let's see here. So down here's the key switch. It's still a little blurry. So key switch, and this says ignition. So we just follow this over. This harness here takes you over to the engine side of the harness, and this is the OEM side. So by connecting here, or actually this one here, we could follow this out. There's a little fuse, and this is number 5. So we want to look for number 5 for a positive. That's going to tell the engine that go ahead and turn the ejectors on, because this is all electrically fired. And then we're going to look for this cluster here. Positives is 0, 1, 25, 26, 27, and 28. The grounds, 73, 52, 51, 50, and 49. It's kind of handy. They're all kind of in a row when you're pinning them out, so it works pretty good. I'll show you an easy way on the harness. If you pull the wiring harness off, you'll be able to identify these really quick. So we're back over here at the wiring harness. This is a good clue that a lot of those terminals that we were just talking about are included. So you see the multiple clusters, and they're grouped into one wire. So this will give you a good clue that these ones here are that cluster red. And then you can also look for the ground. The ground actually connects down here to the block, and I've already pulled that off, but you can do the same thing with the ground. The white wire, see, they're all connected up here. So rather than cutting the wire down here for the ignition, we also need number 5. Number 5 actually went to this plug here. And that plug, I found that wire. That's OEM number 5 right there. So we'll need that. And so what I did is connected positive to there. Positive, I'm just using this screw down here for kind of my junction box. So I got a positive coming off of that to here, and it's going to go from here to the positive on the battery when ready to crank. The only other wire that I haven't found yet in the wiring harness, and it's in here someplace, is the solenoid on the starter. And what I did was, simply for now, I connected a lead up to the terminal on it, and I just ran that over. So I'll show you that, guys, how we click that. This truck had multiple batteries to it, so I only have one battery, so I'm going to just keep this one off for now. Obviously, this is all going to be cleaned up again down the road. So here's the wire that comes from the starter, and simply all I have to do is just to touch it right on there, and it'll spin it. Okay, so we're going to have positive to OEM number 5. We're going to have positive to the cluster that I showed you there in the wiring diagram, and we're also going to have a negative to the other cluster. See, that actually goes down to my negative. On top of that, we have the main engine ground, which is connected to the starter. So ideally, I should have a ground going from here to the engine itself, because the starter sometimes doesn't really ground throughout the whole engine. You're going through the different types of metals, and you have aluminum base going through a steel body, and you get galvanic corrosion and whatnot. So just things to look out for. That's why you still need clean grounds on everything. So that takes care of the electrical side. The other thing we need now is fuel. So I don't have a lot of the fittings that come off the truck, so I kind of had to do some reverse engineering here. The guy at the Cummins dealer graciously gave me a bunch of fittings to mess around with. So I got this one here. It's actually off a turbo install kit that they don't use. So I got that fitting. This is just basically a cheap $12 electric 12-volt pump, and this just goes over to the diesel tank. So that fuel comes in through here, into this filter, out across here into the injection pump. Well, actually, I think it goes into the secondary somehow, so I still have to figure that out. And then gets obviously fed to the injector bank up here, and then return fuel back to the tank comes through this fitting here. And it's a banjo style bolt, so it flows through this here, and I actually had to run that one back to the tank too. So it's just the same thing like in a regular truck. So other than that, that should be all we really need. I don't have water hooked up to this. I don't have transmission cooling lines hooked up to this, so obviously I'm not going to run it very long. The fittings kind of leak a little, multiple little things like that. So I don't know if his battery will start it, but we're going to give that a try. I think that's about all I can cover here on this side. So one other thing too that I haven't figured out yet is the diagnostics, how to communicate with the computer, because I am looking to pull data off of this ECU to the dashboard, and for troubleshooting, and for I want to do some custom programming on it just to kind of educate myself. So I did locate this harness. This actually goes to the cab of the truck through the OEM harness, and these are two different signal wires. So these wires actually run all over the engine. So the transmission, I believe it runs back to there. And there's also a hidden plug up here. It's where's that? On the ISBs, I believe it's in the front here. And what it is just a little triangle plug up in here. And a lot of guys, from what I hear, they connect their computer directly to there. Some actually have a pigtail to connect it down here to the main. Obviously, you want the best possible communication whenever you're programming these, so you don't miss coding on it. So anyways, I got this all secured back on. What I'm going to do is connect this power wire to the battery, and that's going to power up my 12-volt pump. It's also going to power up the computer. We're going to hear a couple things happen. We're going to hear the grid intake heater kick on. I do not have this connected, so there is no terminal on it. It's about 45 degrees right now, so this is going to be a cold start. You're also going to hear the injectors doing their self-test up here. So other than that, that's about all you really hear. There's not much more for it. But got a couple things we want to watch for. Obviously, the fan's going to be turning, so I don't want to be there. This is the hydraulic pump for the power steering, and this is the air compressor. So just kind of things to watch out for when we're cranking this over. Obviously, we don't want to get caught in the universal joint. So let's get this connected. Let's listen for the different clicks. Okay, that was the solenoid kicking on for the grid intake heater. Like I said, we're not using that. Fuel pump is pumping. And the injectors I heard cycle. Okay, I just heard it. Actually, the grid intake heater just clicked off, so we know that this whole system is basically working. Like I say, looks like I got good fuel coming back. It's a little leaky, it's messy, but we're going to go ahead and give it a try here. So I'm going to take this wire and just connect it up to the positive, and we're going to see if it works. All right. Now we got to get the fuel up through the system again. I could manually pump it a couple times too here, but let's see if we could just crank on a little more. That's it. All right, so it's functioning. I wish I had an oil pressure gauge to check oil pressure on it. So that's kind of on my list. I believe I can connect it up somewhere in the front here. I think there's a test port. So I'd like to check that. I am going to be looking into seeing if I can program it through the through my older diagnostics piece of equipment that I have, and maybe just go the electronic route. And that way I check the sensors and stuff. But you know, I think that's pretty much it for today. I'm probably going to make sure I get this all bottled up, you know, for mice and whatever. So obviously the intake I'm going to have to get covered up, the exhaust, the turbo. A little worried about mice on wires. I don't have good luck, but anyways, that's where we're at with the project. I'm going to be pushing this aside, and then we're going to get back on the loadstar. I have to work on the frame some, and then I also have to figure out where exactly this engine's going to sit on the chassis. Something that I have no clue about yet, so we're going to be learning about that. All right, I'll catch you guys later.